Welcome, you're watching Vox News, your daily evening news with Rita Kamkumo. Our headlines today: Burundi's newly invested president Evariste Ndayishimiye vows to continue on the path of his late mentor, Pierre Nkurunziza. Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb confirms the death of its leader and vows to continue to combat forces in the Sahel region. Kenya wins a seat at the United Nations Security Council, defeating Djibouti after the first round of voting. Our top story today: Burundi's newly invested president Evariste Ndayishimiye vowed on Thursday to continue on the path that had been laid out by his predecessor, the late President Pierre Nkurunziza, who passed away on the 8th of June. In his first speech, the new president paid tribute to his former mentor, who he said had strengthened Burundi's independence and sovereignty and succeeded in bringing back unity between Burundians after a long civil war. While hailing Nkurunziza's 15-year rule, the new president vowed to rule the country in the same spirit.
Good governance starts with the establishment of good government. Good government also starts with a Burundian leader who loves all Burundians, who knows their concerns and who is respected by his people. I came then to establish this good governance as I'm obliged by the Constitution, and I confirm and declare that as I am with God, I will accomplish everything.
The 52-year-old former army general who led the crowds in a minute of silence in tribute to Nkurunziza inherits an internationally isolated nation and faces a challenging task of reconciliation. Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb confirmed the death of its leader, Abdelmalek Drukdel, according to American monitoring body for extremist groups SITE. SITE director Rita Cast indicated on Thursday that Al-Qaeda's North Africa wing acknowledged the death of its longtime leader with a video eulogy in which it vowed to continue the fight against French and other forces in North Africa and the Sahel region. This confirmation comes 2 weeks after French Defense Minister Florence Parly stated that French forces had killed the late Islamist leader in the northwest Mali town of Tessalit, neutralizing many of his allies in the process. Drukdel was responsible for regularly carrying out attacks and abductions of Westerners in the Sahel region, where an Islamist insurgency erupted in 2012, claiming thousands of military and civilian lives since then. Kenya was elected on Thursday as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council for a 2-year term starting on the 1st of January 2021. The country defeated Djibouti after the first round of voting by the General Assembly, which failed to choose between the two African countries as they had been unable to receive the required 2/3 majority of 128 votes on Tuesday, causing an election rerun. In Thursday's vote for the 15-member Council's Africa seat, Kenya obtained 129 votes against 62 for Djibouti. Kenya now joins Norway, Ireland, India and Mexico, which the General Assembly elected on Wednesday, and will replace South Africa in January. In Zimbabwe, the main opposition party accused the government of corruption for contracting a medical company created only 2 months ago to provide medical equipment in the fight against coronavirus. At a press conference held on Thursday, the Movement for Democratic Change stated that a company named Drax Consult, registered in Hungary, was awarded a $20 million contract to provide coronavirus test kits and protective equipment in Zimbabwe. In March, the Hungarian authorities flagged a suspicious payment of $2 million to the company's account. The contract was allegedly signed without the legal consent of Zimbabwe's Procurement Registration Authority. The government has not yet commented on these accusations. On the economic front, Zambia's mining chamber stated on Thursday that the country's mining companies saw its revenue drop nearly a third between February and April this year due to the coronavirus pandemic. The collapse in copper prices experienced at the beginning of the year is another contributing factor. The country's revenue from mining, its main economic pillar, is expected to continue on a downward trend for another year. Zambia Chamber of Mines and Association of Mining Companies explained that the 30% drop in mining revenue was due to harsh global restrictions on movement that have wreaked havoc on the mining supply chain and hampered exports and sale of copper. In Mozambique, the justice gave exemplary punishment to the police officers involved in the infamous murder of a poll observer, Anastasio Matavele, ahead of last year's general election. The 58-year-old man, former head of a forum of associations that were monitoring the poll and had revealed irregularities in voter rolls, was shot dead on the 7th of October last year by 4 police officers while driving in the city of Zeze. The Gaza Provincial Court handed jail terms of 23 to 24 years, the maximum sentence for the offences, to the policemen who were charged with voluntary homicide, conspiracy, forgery and illegal use of firearms in this unprecedented case. The 4 men were also ordered to pay the equivalent of $21,000 in compensation to Matavele's family. Matavele's murder had caused a stir in the country and abroad. In Ivory Coast, a landslide occurred on Thursday in Anyama, located in the northern suburbs of the capital Abidjan, killing at least 13 residents, with many buried under tons of mud following days of heavy rain. Residents react to the tragic event.
Some parents were shouting to tell us that the bridge had fallen on people. We came to see what was going on, and we saw that it fell on a lot of people. I knocked on my big brother's door, and I was able to save my big brother. But my uncle and his wife had a boy, and they all stayed inside.
The authorities believe the death of 13 people recorded so far could have been avoided.
It is a non-constructible zone, and it is an area that has been designed in the urban development plan to collect water in the event of a 10-year rainfall.
About 20 houses were carried away over 60 meters during this deadly landslide. Local authorities are still searching for potential survivors in the area, where low-income families have been living for years. In Morocco, the Navy rescued 93 sub-Saharan African migrants from several boats in the Mediterranean in the night of Wednesday to Thursday, according to local press. Among the migrants were 15 women and several children. According to the authorities, the migrants have been taken safe and sound to the port of Nador in the northeast of the country, which is a crucial transit route for migrants from sub-Saharan Africa attempting to reach Europe. Moroccan authorities estimate that about 74,000 attempts to immigrate irregularly to Spain were blocked in 2019. On the environmental front in Ethiopia, residents in Addis Ababa are planting trees ahead of the rainy season, which runs from June to September in the country, in response to a call from Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed.
Trees alter the environment we live in by moderating the climate, improving air quality, and it's also a huge benefit for our health as well. So I support this initiative. Only planting trees is not enough. We need to cultivate the ones we planted. It's important to come again and monitor the trees that we planted today.
Last year, 4 billion trees were reportedly planted during the rainy season. This year, Ethiopia aims at planting 5 billion tree seedlings during the ongoing coronavirus pandemic to combat desertification and make the nation greener. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, coronavirus survivors are raising awareness against people's denial of the ongoing pandemic and the stigmatisation against the sick.
I am living proof the disease exists, and I will ask people who still have doubts to be very careful, because I can confirm that I suffered. I believe that the coronavirus should be taken seriously. The protective measures should be respected, and the advice of health authorities should be followed to the letter.
Les conseils des autorités sanitaires. Je crois que c'est ce qu'on peut. Il y a la stigmatisation.
There is the stigma. When you know it's COVID, you're stigmatized. My children were nicknamed COVID in the neighborhood. They were called Corona, so when a child goes out to buy something from a common store, they call my children Corona. That's the kind of behavior that drives people into hiding. We need to raise awareness and consciousness so that people understand that this is not a disease of shame. It can be cured.
On peut en guérir.
Since the beginning of the pandemic, the country of 84 million inhabitants has recorded 5,477 cases of virus infection, including 719 recoveries and 122 deaths.
Late 1910 episode 118 scene 11 take 1 reshoot.
Finally, Nigerian filmmakers discussed the way the coronavirus pandemic is still affecting the movie industry, although the ban on film production has now been partially eased.
And because of the pandemic, because of the coronavirus pandemic, a lot of sets, had to, go on lockdown, just like every other sector of the economy that went on lockdown. So it greatly affected the movie industry in Nigeria. One important thing that we did was that in Halita, before the COVID-19, we were over 70 people that were filming with crew. But because we're trying to avoid having a lot of crowd in one place, we had to bring down the number of our crew from 70 to 12. So currently we're just about 12 people on set that are working.
We have cut down on, the number of persons that has to be on sets. Most of the scenes where you have to hug or be very cozy, it's not the same anymore. So we have to be very cautious of our gait, our nuances, whatever it is that we're doing, to protect ourselves. Yeah, so it has affected the emotions and all that.
People who had production being planned were shut down. Some that were in the process of production were stopped, and some release dates were cancelled. So it affected the industry very, very negatively across board. And I think there's no producer that will tell you that it's been funny since the pandemic occurred.
More and more Nigerian producers and directors are looking to release their movies on online streaming services as strict guidelines are still in place to combat the spread of coronavirus.
We'll make you proud, sir.
That's it for today. Thank you for watching Vox News.